Alright, everybody. If you've been watching me for a while, something you might have noticed about me is that I talk often about how one of my biggest dreams, for the longest time, my entire life, as long as I can really remember, has been to go on a vacation to an idyllic tropical paradise. That's a pretty big ask, to be fair. You know, I think it's a pretty big ask. Many people do not have the privilege to be able to even have the opportunity of ever doing that. But like, God, have I always wanted to do that. And I know a lot of people who've been to the Bahamas, they've been to Cuba, they've been to Mexico, they've been to the Mediterranean, they've been to Jamaica, and they have like a great time. They have these beautiful photos. Hell, even Australia, right? The coast of Queensland is very beautiful. Queenslander! Sorry, that wasn't good. Hold on. Queenslander! Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so like the coast of Queensland is also very pretty. And I've always wanted to go to like a beautiful, idyllic tropical paradise. But climate change exists. And part of climate change is the destruction of our oceans on several different levels, from its acidification to its warming to its desalinization. There are a lot of different issues that are contributing to just really f***ing over our oceans. And what really upsets me about that is that I love, like, the ocean. I love coral, I love reefs, and I love, like, seagrass and big, like, plains of sand under the water. I love it. And I want it to be protected, and I want to be able to witness it in real life. And knowing that so much of that beauty in this world has been destroyed just in the time that I've been alive, like, the places that I looked at on TV when I was like 10 years old and fantasizing about being able to go on a vacation there, many of those places are probably unrecognizable now. Polluted as fuck, touristy, like filled with high-rise hotels and covered in litter. It's sad. And probably one of the most, like, doomering, I guess, parts of all this is coral reefs dying. But we're not going to be doomering today. We're going to be bloomering, because there are people out there working their asses off and doing a great job to revitalize coral reefs, raising coral in controlled environments, preserving it, and cloning it, and planting it in the ocean to rebuild new coral reefs. And there are several people, organizations, and YouTubers doing this. I plan to go over a couple different videos in this particular segment. This is more of like an addendum segment to the stream, more of like a passionate rant from me, less so an educational segment, though I'm sure you'll have something learned from it. Hopefully you find it entertaining. Anyway, this video is by is from a foundation that's working on restoring coral reefs. Let's check it out.
Essential ecosystems in the world, but they're also one of the most endangered. To help fight for coral reefs, organisations around the world are developing methods and technologies to ensure that these lungs of the ocean have a bright future.
Welcome back to Going Green. Today we're visiting the Coral Restoration Foundation, the largest reef restoration organization in the world.
Coral reefs provide habitats, food, and protection to over 25% of all marine species and support more than 300 million people.
Coral is an extremely complex life form on our planet. It's one of the most interesting forms of life that we have on Earth, and yet it can only live in such sparse regions of the planet. And the more we destroy those very sparse regions, the more we damn near guarantee that they could go extinct. Can you imagine an Earth where coral reefs are just a thing of the past?
Communities across the world. With the threats of climate change, ocean acidification, pollution, and biodiversity loss, coral reefs are disappearing at alarming rates.
It's not a good
Here
thought.
in Florida, running from north of Miami to the south of Key West, lies Florida's coral...
Not that part of Florida, but Florida.
Reef, the third largest barrier reef in the world, and only one within the continental United States.
However, Florida's coral reef today is now down to just 2% of what it formerly was back in the 1970s, so desperate action is needed to restore this precious ecosystem.
Holy shit. 2% of what it was in the 1970s. My mom went to Key West as a kid, and she did snorkeling on the coral reefs around, like, the southernmost point. And then I was very young. This is the closest to a tropical vacation I've been on, but I don't count Florida. Was my mom took me to the Keys, and I hardly remember it. Though I remember, since it was so close to being a tropical beach vacation, that like the one I always had in my mind, you know, it's the closest I've been to like the Bahamas or the equator or anything like that. I was super happy to be there. My mom, I remember her telling me, I came here like in the 80s and in the early 90s, and it was vibrant. Like, it's unrecognizable now. And I can only imagine how much worse it's gotten since I was like 7 or 8 years old and I went there for like a weekend. I can only imagine how much worse the damage has gotten.
We had the opportunity to sit down with Madeline from the Coral Restoration Foundation to learn more about how they are helping to restore the coral reefs.
So my name is Madeline. I have been with Coral Restoration Foundation for 2 years, and I am our communications and outreach coordinator. So I work a lot with our community, working to empower people, get them involved, and really tell the story of what it is we do at CRF. Coral Restoration Foundation is a nonprofit that works to restore reefs by raising corals in open ocean coral nurseries on structures that we call coral trees. CRF.
These are so fucking cool. I don't know why, but these are like anti-thalassophobia for me. There's something so comforting about these pillars. Like, if I was snorkeling around them, like, I wouldn't be freaked out about anything that could be in the water with me at all. Like, I just feel calmed about them. I don't know. There's something about coral that makes swimming in the ocean less scary. I grew up, like, swimming in the ocean. There's always a hint of fear when you're in the ocean. It's not your element. But, like, you can get pretty comfortable.
Actually invented the coral tree, and it helps us to raise these corals 4 to 6 times faster than they normally would grow naturally on a flat surface.
Oh.
So we raise these corals in our coral nurseries out in the open ocean, and then return them to the reefs where they...
So it looks like the ideal end game for coral's evolution is for it to be evolving into giant underwater trees. Which honestly makes sense. Like, assuming human intervention didn't happen, like... presumably coral would evolve into, like, for its maximum form would be like giant underwater trees. That'd be so fucking cool, dude. Instead of them being like little underwater bushes, which are pretty cool, but giant underwater trees. Well, coral isn't one life form. It's a symbiotic, like, collection of things. Yeah, it'd be like Subnautica. I hope we find, like, an ocean planet that's like Subnautica. But you know that capitalists, like, interest, like, Elon Musk would have a casino, like, barge built there within, like, a decade to start making money off of it. Or whoever takes Elon Musk's place as the next piece of shit billionaire tech bro.
Used to naturally dominate. And we do that by scuba diving, taking some very scientific tools like regular hammers you would find at Home Depot, milk crates that are just plastic crates, and bringing those corals back to their natural habitats, the reef, clearing...
This is Florida. No program like this has any budget, okay? The state is not giving any program like this money, okay? They gotta work with what they got.
Areas of algae and then literally gluing them to the reef with a cement-like epoxy that allows them to secure themselves down and then grow out over the reef top. Florida's coral reef is really a pretty famous reef internationally, and what we used to see were these really dominating fields of staghorn and elkhorn corals, which are a branching...
These are what I remember seeing when I was in the Keys. Like, I remember seeing a few of these and being like, whoa, that was my first time I ever saw coral in real life, outside of, I guess, an aquarium. I've been to a lot of aquariums.
In coral. So it used to be that our whole entire reef tract was covered in these thickets of coral that provided habitat for all of these different fish and protected our coastlines from storm damage and other types of things like that.
Yep, I forgot to mention, coral reefs are extremely beneficial to humans. Obviously, they're nurseries for fish populations to plenish. So, you know, we eat a lot of seafood. It's good to preserve the places where the animals are breeding more of themselves. Like, you don't want to destroy your food's respawn point. Like what's the logic in that? What is the logic in destroying your food's respawn point? You're just fucking over your potential KD. It's pointless. Not to mention the coral reefs protect us from hurricanes and big storms and stuff like that. It's a barrier. The Great Barrier Reef is called the Great Barrier Reef for a reason. It's a barrier of a lot of the Australian coast from being bombarded by waves from the Pacific.
Unfortunately, back in about the 1980s, in the last 40 years, we saw a drastic
decline in what our reefs looked like. So they started out with these beautiful thickets, and we unfortunately ended up with graveyards. And that was due to many different factors.
That is what a coral graveyard looks like.
We sometimes say that the death of coral reefs is a death by 1,000 cuts, because it's not just one thing that is the problem. It's the
look at those. Are those
multiplication
sponges?
of
Those
many,
are sponges.
many problems that are just adding to them. The largest threat to coral reefs is climate change. And
polyps.
In order for us to save coral reefs, we do have to address the effects of climate change. But in the meantime, it's really important, it's vital to conserve.
As mentioned before with our Dubai segment we did earlier, dredging is an extremely big damager of coral reefs as well, because you just straight up bury and or just suck up the reef and the habitats, the animals, everything. Like it's basically like running a combine through like a wheat field where it just like shreds everything. I don't know how many of you guys grew up in a rural area, but have you guys ever seen like when a combine goes through the wheat field and there's a lot of rodents in the wheat field? Yeah.
These viable wild.
It's not on purpose. It's how it goes. It's just how it goes.
Populations so that they have a fighting chance once we've started to mitigate the effects of climate change.
There are thousands of species of coral all around the world, with the CRF working to conserve this diversity within Florida.
So Coral Restoration Foundation works to conserve the genetic diversity of our reef populations. So we work with over 1,000 genotypes of corals across 20 different species of corals. And the idea there is that this conservation of genetic diversity is going to allow for the reef to naturally rebound because it has such a wide selection of different types of corals to select from.
Yeah, so they're making sure to enforce a diversity of different corals, because it's not good to just have a big field of the same type of coral, because we've been seeing a lot of like those spindly coral, I forget the name of them, in the sponges, where it's all just one type of coral in these images, because these are more modern footage where the reefs have died a lot. But they should look more like this, where it's like a ton of different type of coral. So yeah, they're doing a good job to diversify it. It'll be healthier. And the biodiversity, obviously, will lead to there being more healthy specimens coming about, right? So these specimens of coral that you're going to see propagating themselves throughout the reef are going to be healthier due to some level of, like, natural selection. It's a big part of why the biodiversity is needed in these coral reefs. Both in terms of the flora and the fauna.
If we're able to conserve these natural populations and boost that natural recovery process by conserving genetic diversity, we're giving the corals a fighting chance when it comes to future threats.
Lobsters.
Other reef restoration organizations operate outside of the ocean to grow and analyze coral. So we were interested to understand why the Coral Restoration Foundation operates actually within the ocean.
Coral is fauna?
Coral Restoration Foundation operates 100% in the open ocean. And that allows us to reduce a lot of the stress that occurs in transporting corals. It also allows us to really expand the amount of corals we're able to grow and operate on a massive scale. So we have multiple coral open ocean nurseries.
How fucking cool would it be if, like, I become a big enough YouTuber at some point in the future that I could do this for a video? Like, legit, I just strap a GoPro on, I get the snorkel and the fins, and I'd be a big enough YouTuber that I'd get offered by a group like this to come out and, like, bring publicity to it and do, like, a fundraiser video for an organization like this, and I could do a video where I do something like that. That's the kind of... I've seen many YouTubers do stuff like that, but God, that's the dream, you know? I just planted 100 coral, you know? Yeah. Environmentalist arc. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I'm kind of a big nature fan, you know? I don't know... I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I'm kind of a lover of nature and the outdoors, despite being sort of a shut-in gamer neat. I also really love the outdoors and nature. It's really weird. It's a weird combo.
Throughout the Florida Keys, and we're able to raise over 45,000 what we call reef-ready corals every single year. So working in that open ocean habitat allows us to work on these massive scales that we really need to see.
What I really love is how clearly well taken care of the coral babies, I guess we'll call them, the saplings, the coral saplings are, because they're so colorful and vibrant compared to the sort of like bleached look the older corals have. Larva, oh, very cool. Yeah, coral larva, that makes sense. Like, you can tell how much more vibrant they are color-wise. Obviously, these are different types of coral than what you get in, like, Australia, which are, like, pink and green and orange and red and yellow, and that's where you get, like, a rainbow of coral, ideally. But these are still pretty vibrant.
A really big change in the restoration effort.
With much of the CRF's efforts concentrated in Florida, Madeline assured us that their impact and influence extends far beyond Florida's waters.
Thank God for gravity.
A big part of our initiatives are to provide resources to communities around the world so that they have information that we necessarily didn't when we first started. And that allows them to have success in their own projects, in their own restoration projects. We've published 3 white papers that talk about our different restoration techniques, our photomosaic technique, and now our boulder coral technique.
I'm sorry, this is cool as fucking shit. This is the coolest fucking job ever. One day.
Techniques, which we hope will help to bolster a lot of these restoration initiatives around the world.
Growing and outplanting millions of coral is an essential but very specific process to ensure that the individual corals can intertwine to form stable and lasting reefs. Madeline gave Kira a step-by-step walkthrough of the process.
This is our hands-on practice station for before you actually go out to return corals to the wild yourself. Okay. Got to do a little bit of dry land practice. Okay. Because it does actually matter where you're placing the corals on the reef to give them their best chance for success. That's beautiful. So I'll go ahead and let you choose where you think might be a good spot. Okay. The one thing I'll say is it has to have 3 points of attachment.
Right, okay.
That's interesting and good to know. 3 points of attachment.
All right, so this is definitely a good spot. It's going to give you nice water flow where you get nutrients over top. And eventually, as we start to outplant our clusters around, the corals will grow and fuse together and create a nice, really beautiful thicket of habitat. So now you'll notice we've got a ton of like sand, algae, debris. Corals need a clean limestone surface to be able to grow successfully. So next step is to clear off some of that sand in those areas that you're going to attach. Perfect.
Yeah, be careful with that.
And don't be afraid, a little bit more. Don't be afraid to really get in there because algae grows really quickly. Gotcha. Corals are really slow. Gotcha. Perfect. Very cool. Okay.
It won't root onto sand.
Now our next step is our
It won't root onto sand, so you have to root it onto a piece of that classic Florida limestone. If you're a Floridian or you visited Florida and you've been to any area where there's water, you've seen that like classic white Florida limestone. It's all porous and smoothed out usually because it gets eaten away by acidic rain and stuff like that. And it erodes pretty quickly, relatively quickly for it's like, I think it's a sedimentary rock, so it just kind of breaks apart a lot faster than other rock types. So yeah, you'll have to find like a piece of limestone and like get the sand off of it because it has to root onto solid limestone. That's interesting. You can't just stick it in the sand. You got to brush and pull away the sand and find some solid rock to root it onto, and it needs 3 points of contact. That's really cool. I like learning about this stuff. You guys might be bored, but I like this segment a lot.
Fancy, in this case, Play-Doh, but we actually use an epoxy. Okay. And you want to roll it up into just a little ball.
The whole thing?
Yep, the whole thing.
And eventually we'll get 3 of these. But then you want to find your point of attachment for your coral and place your ball in a bit of like a mountain shape.
Okay.
Oh, they use like...
So it looks like right about there.
They use an epoxy.
I can imagine doing this underwater.
Exactly, yeah. Add some surge and all of your scuba gear.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Gets a little bit more complicated.
God, that is beautiful.
You'll gently press that in. Exactly, apply nice even pressure, and then a tiny, tiny bit of smoothing to make sure that you're all secured. The less you mess with it in real life, the better, because this epoxy will just solidify into a concrete and the coral itself will grow over top of it.
Gotcha. Okay.
The last and most important test, especially when you're underwater, is the wave test, because obviously it's not going to be a flat, calm, beautiful day every day.
Right.
Sometimes there's surge, sometimes there's waves. You want to make sure any kind of waves,
Like that.
the coral still stays in place.
Gotcha.
Exactly. So we
current
always
test.
finish off with that wave test and then move onto our next.
Wow, amazing.
So you got 1 down and now about 170,000 to go, and you'll reach us. Exactly.
I'll see you in 10 years.
Involving the community is key to the Coral Restoration Foundation's mission. Here's how you can get
Base.
involved.
Getting the community involved with Coral Restoration Foundation's mission is my favorite part of our work. I
links in the
really
description.
enjoy bringing people into the world of our oceans and of science. And some of the different ways that we do that are through school education programs where you can just virtually chat or take a lesson from one of our staff members. We also do dive and snorkel programs for the public.
Boys? Boys? Okay. We have something, all right, that the average Florida tourist or Florida resident does not have, okay? Numbers. Imagine if a bunch of people were like, hey, a left-wing streamer named Xanderhall reacted to a video about your organization and really likes what you guys do. You should work with him. There will, of course, be links to how you can like support this organization in the description, but that would probably be pretty based. Chat, we're doing a beach episode.
So you can literally come to our headquarters in Key Largo, Florida, do a bit of a hands-on educational practice, and then come out into the ocean with us and actually return corals to the wild with your own hands, under supervision, of course, with our team.
Absolutely.
But it's really fulfilling, and it really just is so amazing for people to be able to...
I gotta get my scuba cert. Fuck! I've been putting off getting my scuba cert for too long. Snorkeling and breath holding has always been good enough for me. And I kept getting offered to go get my scuba cert by my uncle, but I always was just like, later, and I never got it. It's not hard. You just have to get certified to do something like this. They won't let you get into this unless you have a scuba certification. That's how it works. Trust me. I know. I'm from Florida. I know.
Really feel like they are involved and a part of the solution. And you can just become involved in your own area. We like to say you can choose your change. So finding any type of initiative that could help support reefs, like picking up trash on the side of the road. Eventually that trash ends up in the ocean. So
yeah,
any small thing
where
is
it
going
goes.
to make a really big helpful
It goes to the rivers, and then the rivers lead to the ocean.
impact for reefs.
They also offer internships and volunteering opportunities for people of all backgrounds looking to pursue a career in marine conservation.
So we have both a volunteer and an internship program. Our volunteer program is long-term, so you do have to be in the area for at least 2 months in order to go through the training process. So we get you all trained up, but it's completely free. So you're able to come and work with us, get the training that you need to be able to actually do the work alongside of our team. Or
awesome.
you can become an intern. And our interns are 40 hours a week with a educational stipend. And they also receive training across
That's
the board
magical.
from our
love sea
restoration
turtles.
team to our science
of the
team
best
to even
animals.
our communications.
Sea turtles are one of the animals of all time. Simple as.
and development teams. And it's a really, really great stepping stone
So are
to
stingrays.
launch your career into.
What kind of manta ray is this? Is that like a... I'm going to guess the name. I don't know what this is called. I'm going to guess what this is called. A leopard ray. I'm going to guess the name of this is a leopard ray. I've never heard of an animal called that, but if I were to guess the name of if I were to name that animal, I'd call it a leopard ray. Please tell me I'm correct. Someone Google it. Florida. These look like leopard spots. I'd call that a leopard ray. Cheetah ray? Oh, is it a cheetah ray? Are you serious? Am I off on... Did I get the wrong big cat? I have generational trauma from stingrays. Listen, Minimum Volts. Steve Irwin would not want you to take vengeance on them. It's a leopard whip ray. I was pretty damn close. Wrong big cat, and I left the whip out, but pretty close. I've literally never heard of a leopard whip ray before, but I do think it's pretty funny that I guessed pretty damn close to what this animal is called.
To marine science. The future of Coral Restoration Foundation,
I'd call it a leopard ray.
in a nutshell, is massive scale reef restoration internationally. And a big part of that is collaboration. So we have joined in with NOAA's Mission Iconic Reefs, which is a huge multi-organizational mission to restore 7 iconic reef sites in the Florida Keys.
That's beautiful.
We've also co-founded the Coral Restoration
Look at that
Consortium,
baseball.
which brings together management agencies, restoration agencies, nonprofits around the world to share ideas and information and essentially help to continue building and improving coral restoration all around the globe.
Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more videos like this, then
That was a really good video. There will be links to that organization, how you can support them and get in contact with them for any reason, down in the description of this video when it comes out on YouTube, of course. But I also want to show you guys another channel that I watch. So there are quite a few YouTube channels that are literally centralized around raising coral. Raising and farming coral. Usually to sell to people for tanks. It's usually like really exotic corals. But these YouTubers, mostly because they're doing it on YouTube, are held to a pretty high scrutiny. And so they raise their corals well. And I would argue they're also helping preserve biodiversity and like the species for replenishment. If a certain species goes extinct in the wild and a bunch of breeders have kept it alive in captivity, that species can be saved. Especially the more breeders that have raised them in captivity. So people farming coral privately is actually a pretty damn good thing. More coral existing is good. Like with the axolotls. Yes, I actually have a friend who raises axolotls. I think I have several friends that raise axolotls at this point. Strangely enough, the vast majority of them are trans. I think there's something about trans people loving axolotls. I think that's like a, it's a rule of the universe. I think everybody loves them, but like extra so. So you guys are about to see what a coral farm looks like.
Hey guys, how you doing? It's Brian from the Coral Farm up in Massachusetts. So I'm just going to give you a quick tour of all the corals that we have to offer here. So we got the pumps running right now, so we're going to turn those off and then you should be able to see right.
If you're wondering why they're glowing so much, it's because he's got black light shining on them. A lot of coral glows under a black light, so he keeps black lights on them.
Down through the water
display.
like glass. So we have all Ecotech equipment here, so what we're going to do is we'll just put it in this mode where just turn off all the circulation pumps. These are all closed looped pumps. We have the
This is not a
Radion
cheap
Gen
hobby, as you
5s,
can probably
a bunch
tell.
of them everywhere. So yeah, let me give you a quick tour.
And if you look, you can see its layers. There's more coral down below that layer, I believe.
What we got going on here. So
Maybe not.
let me see. This is our higher power SPS dominant tank. We have a lot of acropora, but we also got some other stuff. Like we got some clams mixed in and some softies.
Those are clams.
And everything. But
those cool blue lipped clams. I love those things. Those are the artistic inspiration for the clams in SpongeBob.
bar is higher. It's like around 150 near the edges, and around like 350 in the middle. Up close to the top of the water, it's like pushing 400 where the clams are. They love it. So yeah, I'll start over here.
By the way, for those that don't know, the creator of SpongeBob, I believe it was Steve Hillenburg, I believe was his name. Sorry if I get it wrong. Was a marine biologist. He was very, very passionate about saving the ocean, and Stephen Hillenburg. Thank you. Yeah. He was very, very dedicated to like saving the ocean and educating people about the ocean. And part of his goal with SpongeBob was to get kids invested in the ocean and sea life and wanting to preserve it. And I'd honestly say, considering the overwhelming success of SpongeBob and the fact that, like, yeah, I think it succeeded. I think he succeeded at that goal. He passed away. Rip to the goat. Rip to the goat. But yeah, it's yeah, SpongeBob's a good show.
We got some fireworks.
You got to meet him on a school field trip. Hell yeah, Cryptid T.
Blue polyps,
Based.
some daisy polyps, nice easy beginner stuff. See, we got some Galaxia frags. These are just
Holy crap.
just some. We have like tons of stuff growing like down below too.
I want you to imagine a future in which we save our planet from the shit the Republicans are doing to it. And you get to go to the beach and swim out like a quarter mile from the coast. And this is what you see growing naturally in the crystal clear blue water.
But almost all of our stuff is aquaculture. I'd say 95% of our stuff.
Oh yeah, he
is
does have
all
coral growing down there.
aquaculture. We do import some stuff just to get stock in to start off, but our goal is to aquaculture everything.
And the way that coral propagates is with its polyps. So he just has to collect the polyps or get like, I think you can get a clipping, right? And like they can reroot. I'm not sure how it works, but he can propagate these. So once he's got like a decent population of a certain type of coral that's fairly diverse, he can keep on generating that type of coral, presumably indefinitely, as long as he's got the money and energy and patience.
So we got.
And he's giving this coral. Oh, there's even fish in there. There's fish. There's a fish down there. He's even giving these coral like the most ideal environment that you could give them in captivity, so they grow fast. Someone mentioned in chat the more vibrant parts that are growing or glowing on the coral are newly grown matter on the coral, and the darker bits are older bits. So the lighter a piece of coral is, the more recently that part of it grew, which means it's growing quickly and fast and recently. It's like this coral's really growing. These bits are new, but that's kind of old. That's how you can tell, like, from at least what people in chat are telling me.
Got some chalices hanging out, living in this corner.
I would love to get like a nice aquarium one day. It's a lot of fucking work. I helped my uncle when I was a kid with his aquarium. He had a moray eel that I got him. And he had a couple fish in there and a fair amount of coral and anemone in there. And I would help him like siphon out the tank and clean it out. And it had to be done every weekend. And it's a lot of work and pretty expensive, but it was fun. It was actually fun. I think back on that like very fondly. But it's hard to say whether it's nostalgia or if I actually had an aquarium, I'd be like, no, fuck this after 2 weeks. Yeah.
Got some really nice chalices over
Anemone.
here.
I like all the
check it
snails
out.
in there.
Big colonies. Like, I mean, these things they're decent.
Yeah, every
We
piece
got
of coral
snail
is a
fell on
colony.
there. He's not having a good day.
It's so
But,
cool.
I mean, look at the size of these things.
It's like a sand dollar.
We
What are
we,
sand
we're
dollars?
Really lucky.
Sand dollars are always one of those really weird things. In Florida, you would sometimes find them alive, and they stain your hand yellow or green or whatever. It's if you pick them up while they're alive. It's really weird. Very rare to find them while they're alive. But you'd find them dead and dried out as like their shells, and you'd skip stone them at the beach, but you don't really find them anymore. They're related to sea stars. They're a form of echinoderm. Yeah, we'd throw the dead shells like skipping stones in the water, but very quickly learned never to even pick up a living sand dollar, because the sand dollars would like stain your hand yellow. Let me show you guys what a sand dollar looks like how you'd see them in Florida. They're pretty cool. And then of course you'd see them dried out, and they are really cool dried out. Everyone looks a bit different, and has like a different pattern. Some of them even have slots in them. But this is how they look when you find them dried out on the beach, and it is really cool to collect them. A lot of Floridians will have a few sand dollars in their shells they've collected at the beach. Pretty cool. I'll show a little bit more of this coral.
Space to grow, and yeah,
God, look how pretty it is.
Great. Like, look at this. This is kind of like a green slimer, but it's more of like a teal colored. But I mean, look at the size of that. Like that. There you go. There's your frag, guys. So come shopping up here, and you're gonna get more than what you expect. Because we're always our goal is to go above and beyond. And sizes on our website.
I wonder if he shows any other types of coral. Oh, here we go.
Then we got like a little basket over here where we keep a little
clownfish.
carpet anemones. They're coloring up beautiful.
I like how he keeps the clownfish in there with the anemonies.
Carpet anemone like that?
Keep them nice and well maintained.
They stay small too, like 6 to 8 inches is the biggest they'll ever get. What's up, buddy?
God, anemones are cool.
But yeah, we throw some inverts in here and some mushrooms that are too small. We let them cook in here. And then we have Alveopora and Goniporas. These are mostly all Gonis, but yeah, these are all aquaculture guys. Like, we bought a colony back in the day, and we've been growing these for years, and they do great for us. Like, we always have these available. Then we got tube anemones, which are obviously imported, but they're amazing. Star polyps, we got star polyps coming out our ears. Like, these,
those
it
are
looks
cool
like a
looking.
sheet here, but these are all just like individual little frags.
Wow.
Like, look at that. It's just ready to go.
It's like grass. It's how the grass in SpongeBob looks.
St. Thomas mushrooms. We're working on a couple different types here. This one's coloring up kind of yellow.
Look at the fish down there.
It's looking awesome.
Is that a blue tang? It's a dory.
And then these are Kung Pao Monty. They are absolutely gorgeous, you guys. They're on the website. Like, these things, they shine. I mean, they are unbelievable. Like,
touch ocean grass.
this is a mother
with
colony.
gloves.
We got.
He's wearing gloves for a reason. Oils and stuff on his hands. Bacteria and oils on his hands no doubt could harm the coral and contaminate the water. Wearing gloves is a good idea.
It's like, it's just glowing. I mean, this thing is awesome. I probably got 6 or 8 colonies like this that I've been fragging off of, and people love them.
That's so cool. I'm not going to show any more, but like, I feel like here's a good point to wrap up the segment. The reason why I wanted to do this segment is because I've noticed that when I do anything about climate change, and this isn't me complaining about my viewership, I mean, this is true of every other lefty content creator. Any video they do about climate change, unless it starts some insane discourse that's happened before, usually ends up performing way worse than their other videos, even when it comes to lefty content creators. It feels like a large portion of the left just doesn't give a fuck about climate change. That's what I thought at first. But I realized very quickly it's not that they don't give a fuck or they don't care. It's that they're doomer about it. They feel like there's nothing they can do and all hope is lost. And it's just, all they'd be doing is watching as imminent, doom comes hurtling at them. But there are things you can do. And hope is certainly not lost. Like, it is very clear that hope is not lost, and it is only lost if you give up. So I hope this video helps to encourage people to be a little bit less doomer about climate change, and particularly about the oceans effect, or how the ocean's being affected by climate change.